What is up, Jags fans? We are rocking and rolling. I mean, this is the first show we've done in like a month, live show, because there's really not much going on. But I'm super pumped because tonight I have one of my good friends, Bubba from CFB Cauldron. Bubba, how's it going?
Not too bad tonight, Jason. Third
Uh,
time on, third time's a charm. I appreciate you having me back.
I'm trying to think. You may be the most regular guest that we've had. I mean, I've had Mike on a few times, but typically Mike comes on at my house. You're one that we set up, and those are kind of more impromptu. We set you up. We get going. So I'm super excited about today. Before we jump into what we're talking about, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to follow the Twitter of both me and Bubba. That way you can stay up to date with all of our stuff. Bubba typically has been writing some college football articles. What's the latest on that, Bubba? You've been keeping up with it? What's going on?
We've been slacking a little bit. It's
Okay.
it's that time of year. We've been slacking a bit. I'm definitely gonna get back to writing. I was doing live shows every Wednesday last year. Work life get in the way. We're gonna see if that's possible this year, but we're definitely gonna be more consistent writing throughout the year. So that's about to ramp up. Probably within the next week, I'm gonna release what to look for this upcoming college football season. Just an overview of just about every team in the country. So we're excited about that to get working on that.
Yeah, and I would say because like you were pretty regular during the season last year, you can probably go back and look at all those articles that you wrote. Bubba's very thorough. I mean, he knows football really really well. A lot of people watch this channel because of my film breakdowns and because of the way that we kind of talk about the game and the way certain players play certain positions. Bubba has that same ability to do that. So check out his articles and all of that stuff, and you're going to really like it. He's got a website and all of that. We got the chat popping off already. DJM says Jason San, first one in here. Patrick Jackson says I'm going to sleep, which makes sense because he lives in the UK. Yeah,
Wow.
catch it on VOD tomorrow. I mean, you probably got to work like the rest of us. So
Watching some
relax.
Wimbledon.
Good Wimbledon going on. Patrick's more of a soccer guy, but I'm sure he likes tennis too. I don't know. Duval TV, what up, Duval TV? Oh, Eddie is in the chat. Oh man, he probably needs to go to bed too, honestly. Callie Jag says Duval MFs, let's go. I like it, Callie. DJM is actually going to segue us to one of the first things I wanted to talk about. He says the training camp schedule is out. Are y'all going to any? So I'll let you kind of go ahead and talk about that. And what are your thoughts on the training camp schedule? And are you going to any?
Yeah, so obviously we're gonna work around work the best we can. I'm probably gonna try to hit up the Wednesday one, the first one, July 26th. Beyond Wednesday's usually my off day. So Wednesday, Monday, August 7th, and Wednesday, August 9th, just kind of looking out of it off it here to the side, maybe the 31st. So probably I'd say somewhere in 4 to 5 range I'm gonna hit up. But I'm really excited. This year we're finally gonna be shaded. We get to break in the new practice facility as well. So more excited than usual for training camp because we're not going to burn for 3 hours while we're out there.
Yeah, I mean, so you can go on there and you can request tickets to all of these events. So you can actually go on there and you can request tickets to every single event all at one time. And so that's what I did. So I have tickets to, and I know for a fact that I can't go on July 31st. I have to be in Gainesville July 31st. So I already know for a fact that I won't be there, but I still got the tickets anyways because who knows what could happen, right? So I got 2 tickets for every single event. So I'm gonna try to go out there as much as possible. I do know that I'll have to work some of those days, but if I can sneak away from work or if I can get out there for a few hours, I will probably try to get out there every single day. Like you said, like in the new Miller Electric facility, I'm super excited about that. I think it's going to be a great time. I already know a bunch of people on Jags Twitter that have already secured their tickets, so I will definitely be looking forward to that. The July 28th one is the only one that I can't go to because I had season ticket members and I have season tickets, but they're not like under my name. It's kind of a weird situation. But anyways, I probably will end up going, to be honest, but that's the only one that I'm not 100% sure that I'm going. So that's out. Super excited about that. I mean, that's going to be probably one of the highlights of the offseason until the season gets started. So Now that we've got the schedule out of the way, and you're going to try to go, sounds like Wednesdays, even though I know you like to reserve your Wednesdays for a little afternoon golf when possible.
We can do that. It's at 8:45 in the morning.
Okay, so you can do both.
Plenty of time to go watch the Jags and then go play golf after that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I like it. I think we can do both. So that came out. Now, there's probably some bigger news going on than the training camp, and it's probably the biggest news of the offseason. And that's the signing of Doug Peterson's son, Josh Peterson, at tight end. So, the Jags didn't go after someone early. They got Britton Strange in the second round. So, was this the plan all along? Was the plan all along to bring in the USFL legend, Josh Peterson, to be the tight end? What are your thoughts? And do you think this was in Doug Peterson's mind all offseason?
I mean, he had a pretty solid season. I mean, went back, looked through the stats, watched a little bit of Houston Gamblers film from a little bit earlier. He's been, watched him Houston. Jim Kelly, famous gambler as well, also in the NFL Hall of Fame. So I'm dropping some USFL knowledge.
Wait, are you talking gambler like actual gambler?
No, that's the team he was on.
Oh,
he was on the Houston. He's on the Houston Gamblers. So that's also the same USFL team as Jim Kelly. So former Bills quarterback started off as a Houston Gambler. But yeah, I mean, he's been in the 49ers camp, I believe 2 years ago. Last season, he was in the Chiefs camp. So I don't think it's a Tim Tebow sympathy signing either. I think he can actually play a little bit. Now, whether he makes the team, that's to be determined. But he's been in NFL camps before. He's been in good NFL camps. Obviously, the Niners made it to the NFC Championship game. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. He was in the Chiefs camp last year. This is a legit signing. I don't think we're just doing it because it's Doug's son. Did that help with some internal scouting? Absolutely, but this kid can obviously play. He's been in NFL camps before, so yeah, might as well go give him a shot. You need bodies for camps anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I care about this about as much as I cared about the Tim Tebow signing, which was zero, right? These guys aren't going to keep someone on the roster if they're not good enough. So if they go through training camp and they're not good enough to play, they're not going to make the team. And it doesn't matter who you are. And one thing that I don't really like seeing is people on Twitter are things like, oh, this is nepotism. He's taking spots from a player who could earn it. It's like people have no clue how these coaching circles work. Like, what's the difference between Josh Peterson getting his son on the roster with the Jaguars or Josh Peterson getting his son a spot on another team? What's the difference? Like, you look at what happened with Will Mallory getting drafted to the Indianapolis Colts, right? Defense coordinator for the Colts, Gus Bradley. Mike Mallory was on Gus Bradley's coaching staff here in Jacksonville. It's all connected. And if you don't think that these coaches
Carter and Will played high school football together, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, relax on like the nepotism stuff because it doesn't really matter. And these coaches aren't going to keep people on the team that don't deserve it because it's not how the job is too valuable. It's too important for just to kind of do like kind of fun things like this. Yeah,
I mean, we also I don't think we could put Doug's son and Tebow in the same category either. I mean, this kid's been in NFL camps the past few years. He played spring football. It's not Tebow where Tebow's just learning how to play a position at 33 either. Once again, Tebow wasn't good enough. He didn't make the team. I wholeheartedly agree with you. The fact that the jobs are too valuable. Guys aren't going to make the team if they're not good enough. But also, this kid is a legit player. He's been in NFL camps before. He just had a pretty solid season in the USFL also. Might as well give him a camp body to him. If he plays well, maybe he'll make the team. I don't see it happening, but I guess that's what the nature of the sport at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope he does. I mean, I think that'd be fun.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and if anybody knows, like, the offense is probably going to be his kid who has probably grown up around it. So, Volkfang in the chat, who's a channel member, appreciate it, Volkfang, says, man, this upcoming season has me so hyped. Too bad I realized I'm back to working Sunday to Thursday after having had off Sundays last year. Oh, man. So that's okay. Maybe take
I'm right with you. I'm there with you, Volk. It stinks. Monday night game's going to be electric, though. So
are you taking off for that game?
Monday night game? No, I don't work. Mondays off. We're going to the game anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, Mondays are off. Mondays are off.
Nice.
Mondays are off. We're going to the Monday night game. I'll probably go to the Sunday night. I'll probably hit up 3 home games. I'll probably take 1 Sunday off. Not probably later in the season, so it's not a million degrees outside. And then we're gonna go to the Sunday night game and then the Monday night game.
Okay, I like that's a full schedule. I like it. So
I have my entire fall planned out. Ask me on my schedule till January. I'm good to go.
I know you're a very detailed, scheduled person. You got your schedule down to a science, which I always appreciate with you. You were on time for this to this video, which I like. What about any away games? Thinking about going to any away games this year?
Probably not this year. Tampa's a bit enticing. New Orleans is a bit enticing. Probably not. I know you pulled the trigger. I was this close to pulling the trigger on Kansas City last year for the playoff game. I was extremely close. I was also, if we won that game, we would have ended up playing in Cincinnati. I would have gone to that. I already had the tickets booked. I had the days off of work. I was ready to go to Cincinnati. Fortunately, we couldn't pull it off, but there's a future with this team. It's not like 2017 or Jaguar teams of the past where I feel like I might never get that opportunity again. It's never for sure thing in the NFL, but you feel like this team has potential to go deep in the playoffs again.
Yeah, I mean that was. I remember we talked about that when it had happened with Kansas City last year. And although I wanted the Jags to win, and I wish they would have won, to be completely honest, I mean I was out of money after the Kansas City trip, so I would not have been able to afford a Cincinnati trip. So it kind of worked out for me, being able to go to the last game.
Cincinnati was much cheaper to fly into than Buffalo, so I was glad I know the Bengals played the day after us, but after the Bengals won, I was like, oh man. And also, I had a friend staying in Kentucky at the time, like an hour and a half. I was like, and he's back home now, but he's a big Jags fan as well. I could have stayed with him as well, so the Bengals would have set it perfectly, but it just wasn't meant to be, I guess.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, and I'm going to New Orleans and Tampa. So I mean, the only issue with Tampa is it's on Christmas Eve. So some people have an issue with that. I don't, right? So I'm going to be there for both those games, and I'm pretty excited about that. I've never been to New Orleans, so that'll be exciting. And I try to go to a one away game every year, so I'm going to go to New Orleans this year. I don't really count Tampa as an away game. It is, but I mean, it's Tampa.
It's a day trip. Yeah, it's
right,
a day trip.
Yeah, exactly. I could probably come back that day if I wanted to. DJM says, whoa, Tebow was that tight end that never was. Urban was too far gone to know what gym he had. I agree, DJM. I agree. All right. Okay. I was about to ask you a hypothetical about if Tebow was on the team, but that's a bad idea. Bad idea. I'm not going to do that. All right. Let's move off of the huge Josh Peterson signing. There's some other news that's kind of out right now. The training camp schedule. Well, some news that's actually kind of pressing that I don't think is getting a lot of play right now is the fact that Evan Ingram is down to 6 days till he can sign an extension, right? So guys like Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Evan Ingram, they have 6 days to get a deal done, or they play on the franchise tag. So what are your thoughts on Evan Ingram and playing on the franchise tag this year?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I mean it's coming down. I think you said 6 days. I think we're 5 or 6 days away from those guys just reaching the deadline, and then they're going to be forced to sign the tag and play under it this year. I think Evan and the Jags. I think it'd be beneficial for Evan to work out a long-term deal with the Jags. I mean, Doug Peterson's offense is very tight end friendly. The last thing, if you're Evan Ingram, if you want, is you go into this year, you get dinged up, and then Brennan Strange comes out and has a breakout season, and then you're coming into an additional contract year, maybe coming off an injury. And then you're behind the 8 ball just because another tight end had a breakout season. I think it'd be beneficial. Evan's 28, which doesn't sound really old, but for an NFL tight end, I mean, you're kind of getting up there. You probably have one big payday left. I think it'd be beneficial for both sides to work out just because Evan's already comfortable in the offense. He's obviously very comfortable with Trevor, which is your number one priority as a Jags fan. Whatever Trevor wants, if Trevor's in the general manager's office, if he's talking to Trent Baalke, pushing for us to sign Evan Ingram to a long-term extension, I think it'd be beneficial to the Jags. But I think it'd also be beneficial to Evan because, like I said, he's 28, which in football years isn't that young.
I am in a weird spot here because obviously I think any Jaguar fan after watching him last year would know that having Evan Ingram on this team long term would probably be a good situation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he a number of plays where he kind of willed his way to a first down. He was Trevor's kind of check down guy.
Yeah. The thing about the Chargers game, the Chargers comeback may not happen unless we get that late touchdown in the first half. I mean, I was in the stadium for that game. I mean, the stadium didn't really blow up after that because you're still down 20 points. I mean, but that was a massive turning point. I mean, everyone collectively was saying okay, let's just get a touchdown before half. And the guy that came up with that play was Evan Ingram. He made a great catch in the end zone.
Yeah, he's super athletic. I mean, I like his game a lot. It's the issue, obviously, is the fact that he has had an extensive injury history, and he is somebody who had 1 year where he really played well. Some people call it the prove it year. and then he's expected to get a big contract. And it's like, there's a lot of risk there still. And even though we did see one good year out of him, there's a lot of risk with that Evan Ingram pick. And there's a part of me that kind of thinks that Doug Peterson thinks he could do that with anybody.
Without him.
You know? And I don't know if Brenton Strange is the guy. Like, I did the film breakdown on Brenton Strange. I really gassed him up because he had some great plays in college.
But he also there's a lot of good Penn State tight ends on that team. I mean, I watched a decent bit of Penn State football. I mean, you would go back and watch that Minnesota game. They had another tight end scored a few different touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Penn State used a lot of tight ends. So I think some of that Brendan Strange production might have been pulled away. I mean, that could be a good thing. It could be a good thing. Like, hey, this guy just had a lot of other good tight ends he had to compete with for playing time. He's a really, really good player. He just didn't get as many targets as he should have. Or it could be a bad thing. You look at it like, hey, Brendan Strange wasn't good enough to be other tight ends on his college roster. How is he going to be good enough to be a premier tight end in the NFL? So you don't know. I mean, the general managers, that's what they're trying to figure out pre-draft process. Us as fans have a hard time figuring that kind of stuff out.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned in the video was, I didn't watch Penn State games during the season, but when I went back and watched the film breakdowns, it was every single commentator was talking about how the Penn State tight end room was the second best tight end room in the country outside Georgia. Right.
Yeah,
and so,
Georgia.
And every week they were talking about that. And Brenton Strange was the player to watch. And, and he gives you a lot of versatility as far as a run blocker and a lot of play action and things like that. But he's not that receiver type wide tight end. And the reality of the situation is that Evan Ingram is a receiver. And I know he's getting paid on the tight end, franchise tag, and he's listed as a tight end, but the man plays in the offense as a receiver. There's no getting around that. So if you're Doug Peterson and you're looking at, who do I want in 2024? Do I want Calvin Ridley or do I want Evan Ingram? So you can't pay everybody. Trevor's contract's coming up. Josh Allen,
3 years. 3 more years till Trevor owns half of Jacksonville.
It's going to look like Trevor's going to get a significant amount of money, and but you just can't pay everybody. So I don't know. I mean, I like Volkfang says, I loved the effort that Ingram gave all season. I definitely think he signs the tag, but wouldn't be surprised if it's the very last day they either work out a deal or he signs it. Definitely don't think Ingram holds out. I just don't think he's that kind of guy. Yeah, I agree.
Didn't he miss a lot of minicamp though?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he went to anything, did he?
I don't think he went to anything. Yeah. I think he skipped mandatory minicamp. So, I mean, he might have already held out a little bit.
Right. But I mean, I get both sides. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I do get both sides.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Brenton Strange is, I mean, when I look at Brenton Strange, and the biggest difference between Evan Ingram and Brenton Strange, I think, is juice. I mean, he just doesn't have that next level athleticism that Evan Ingram has, and that was his calling card coming out of college, coming out of Ole Miss. I mean, he was that guy you can line up as H-back, throw him a flat route, he could break a tackle and then take it to the house. I mean, he just has that next level of juice. I think Brenton Strange is a really good tight end. I think he's a solid athlete, but he just doesn't have that same juice that Evan Ingram's going to give you in an offense. He isn't scared of the defense the same way.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Ingram was a freak when he came out as far as like measurables. And, his 40 time and his vert and all of that was just like through the roof. But he goes to New York and he has the injury issues. He has the drops.
Really bad coaching as well. Bad quarterback play. And you said he had one good year, which is true. I mean, you look at this was by far his best statistical season. It was also by far the best head coach he's had. It's also by far the best offense he's played in. I mean, so was his lack of production prior to Jacksonville just a result of his surroundings? Was a result of his environment? The fact that New York was just a bad football team? I mean, that might have been the reason why he had a good year once he came in with a good quarterback and a good offensive play caller.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, chicken or egg arguments. Is it Doug Peterson? Can he do it with any tight end, or is it Evan Ingram doing it in Doug Peterson's offense? And it seems like the fact that they're not extending him makes you think that Doug Peterson thinks that he can do it with any tight end. And, look at what he did, all throughout Philly with all the different tight ends he had in the multiple packages there. DJM has a question. He says, if Ingram and Josh Allen both have career years this season, who is the priority signing?
That depends on how well Trayvon plays. What do you think?
I mean, we have Tony Baselli was on the radio either yesterday or today or something, and he talked about how he thinks that Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker will combine for 23 to 25 sacks. So if that's the situation, and if that happens, and I want to get your thoughts on what if you think that'll happen. If that does happen, and we split them, 12-12 or 13-13, does Josh Allen become a huge priority signing in the offseason?
If Trayvon gets 12 sacks, I think then Josh Allen's significance moving into the offseason decreases. Because what you're looking at with Trayvon is obviously, I know I really like Trayvon coming out of college. I know you like Trayvon as well. Trayvon was never going to have a breakout rookie season. He was never going to be a Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. One of those just elite edge rushers coming out of college, because that's not what he did in college. Now, what you do want to see is you want to see him take that Khalil Mack step. Khalil Mack's rookie year, I think he had 3.5 sacks. Next year, he went to 14.5. I don't know if we're going to get Trayvon all the way up to that number, but that's what the kind of development you want to see from Trayvon. You want to see him develop more of a pass rushing arsenal. You want to see him pull up more pass rushing moves. He's a big guy on bull rushing and holding the gap, which works really well. We saw how well he played against Tennessee in that Week 18 game. Him and Josh Allen were doing fantastic. Second half, Derrick Henry wasn't able to run. The Tennessee offense stalled, and that's what Trayvon was always going to be good at. As far as 24 sacks goes between the two of them, if I was a gambling man, which I am, I'd probably take the under on that number, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Josh Allen hasn't had the same sack number production-wise since his rookie season. I know he was pretty littered with injuries in 2020 and 2021. Maybe if Trayvon takes that next step, it just helps. Those edge rushers feed off of each other sometimes. One's really breaking out. One requires a double team. It just frees up the other one. So it wouldn't be the biggest shock to me if they did get somewhere towards that 20-plus range. I think 25 is a lot of sacks for two teammates. That usually requires one guy getting closer to 15-plus sacks. I don't know if either Josh Allen or Trayvon are doing that, but I think it totally changes the way you look at our defense if both of those guys combine for over 25 sacks.
Yeah, the Jags showed issues on defense in multiple places as the season went on. You look at even with how well Tyson Campbell and Darius Williams graded out on PFF, you still didn't ever feel comfortable in coverage. Those guys were good. Don't get me wrong, but
we also had Trey Herndon playing man on man against CD Lamb in the slot the entire Cowboys game.
You got Trey Herndon. You got Herndon out there. Andre Sisco, I think, is going to continue to improve, but I don't think anyone would feel great about him. Covering half the field against a speedy wide receiver. Rashawn Jenkins, had big moments. But for all those big moments, also had moments where he just kind of couldn't keep up with either the tight end or, and I know they drafted some guys that may be able to kind of help there, but the coverage and stopping the run, the linebackers and being able to cover crossing routes, I guess, is probably their biggest issue. That's going to really, because you saw teams not even take 5-step drops against us late in the year because they were like, there's no, so it's hard to ask one of these edge rushers to get a sack when they're doing 3-step drops every single time.
Yeah. You saw Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce had 14 receptions against us in the playoffs and didn't even have 100 yards, which shows you. That's how the NFL is moving. The NFL is moving to more, this too deep. We're going to make you beat us underneath. But there's teams that are good enough that can do that. Teams like Kansas City. I think a lot of people forget that early 2021, Patrick Mahomes really, really struggled. Kansas City wasn't playing great either. It's just because Kansas City was so used to pushing the ball downfield. I saw a stat, and I don't remember it if this were the exact numbers. Patrick Mahomes' rookie year, his average touchdown pass length, as far as not yards ball traveled, but as far as the overall touchdown pass, was I think 18 yards. Last year was much closer to 3 or 4. That's just the way the league, and then part of that is losing Tyreek Hill. Part of that is just changing your offensive philosophy. That's just how the league's going. The league is trying to make you can dunk on offense, and they're going to live with the repercussions.
Yeah. Hey, you definitely saw. I think remember what stat you're talking about, and referring to Patrick Mahomes as just total yards in the air, and it was a significant drop this year. But they won a Super Bowl with it, and
it works.
Yeah, but they also, they're the team that picks up these guys like Kadarius Toney late in the year, and they do things like that also help. That's just other teams don't do for some reason. Now I'm glad to see the Jags did it with Ridley, but they made it work with the rookie running back. So they're coached well, and that's something that I hope we have going forward. Seaton Sesko, who's probably my 54th favorite soccer official, says Jags United. What up, Seaton? How's it going? Duval TV says, I agree, double-digit sacks for Walker incoming. Volkfang says, I think that if Trayvon proves himself to be an alpha elite edge, then it would make Josh Allen the best second edge in the league. And Duval TV agrees. Duval TV Walker INT on his NFL debut against Commanders was high level football. That was, I remember like where I was in that moment, and I just was
and Andy had a sack. I was going absolutely crazy. I think I was like driving to work watching the game. Like Trayvon Walker, I was going nuts in the car. Or don't do that. That was horribly done. Don't watch the Jags while you're driving. But I was, and it totally paid off.
Eddie Walgamuth donated $1.99. Does Eddie even have $1.99 to donate?
Does he even have a bank account? Where did he get this money from? He works like 2 days a week. What's he doing? Giving money away like that? Like I'm sure you appreciate his support, but I mean,
he could have bought so many V-Bucks with that $2, man.
Oh my goodness!
I can't even imagine.
He would have gotten like 15 Madden cards with that.
Elliot Crabtree says, "What's up? What's up, Elliot? How's it going? I'm glad you're here. Glad you made it. I'm here with CFB Cauldron. If you don't know, that's Bubba. He writes mainly about college football because that's what he likes, but he can talk football with the best of them, which is why Bubba and me have been friends for a long time, and he's on this show quite frequently. All right, so speaking of receivers, are you taking the bait on this whole Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley working out with DeAndre Hopkins thing? Like they're working out together. Like, is there any? You think there's any like tampering going on about bringing him over here to Jacksonville?
Would it be tampering since he's a free agent? I don't know if it's tampering. I don't know. Guys nowadays all work out together. I mean, they all have the same trainers. I mean, we see a lot in basketball. These kids grow up playing AAU together, so they're all friends. They're all training in the offseason. I mean, you don't just see those hard, kind of deep-rooted rivalries that we used to see just because these guys grow up as friends. I mean, I'm sure all those guys have been in the league for 5+ years as well, especially DeAndre Hopkins. He's been in the league for almost 10 years now. They're working out with the same trainer. I wouldn't take the bait on it. He hasn't visited Jacksonville. He's visited Tennessee and New England. I wouldn't go to either of those places if I were him. I'm going straight to Buffalo. But I wouldn't take the bait if you're a Jags fan. We haven't even signed Evan yet to the franchise tag. I don't think we're gonna be able to pull it off cap wise.
Maybe that's the plan. Maybe the plan is to not sign Evan Ingram and to bring in DeAndre Hopkins.
Put DeAndre Hopkins at the Y. I love it. Parker Washington, DeAndre Hopkins rotating out for tight end. I love it, Jason.
Who's the odd man? Does Zay Jones see the field? Does Zay Jones even see the field in this situation? I can't see.
Jamal Agnew doesn't take an offensive snap.
I can't see a situation, but maybe. So you're not buying? Yeah, me neither. I mean, it's funny. It's fun. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. They're friends. I mean, hopefully we whoop their butts if he signs with Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like New England would be the better option for him. Neither team really has a quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
that's so surprising after what he went through with Houston and Bill O'Brien. He's going to go back to, I know Bill O'Brien's the head coach, but go back and play for Bill O'Brien. That just absolutely shocks me that he's even thinking about doing that.
That's something I hadn't thought about, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, like Bill O'Brien, Bill O'Brien gave him away. I mean, yeah. He killed Houston. I mean, he just ran the franchise into the ground. And then DeAndre Hopkins is like, yeah, let's go play for a Bill O'Brien offense. I understand it's New England. Things are a little different, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, maybe he goes to Tennessee, and I'm not even worried about him at Tennessee because who's going to throw it to him? I mean, Malik Willis is looking better in camp than Will Levis is. So
I saw a report. I saw the same. I'm not lying. I saw a report that Malik Willis. I saw the same one that you did, and I saw one later that day that Malik Willis is probably going to get cut. I mean, that's an absolute dumpster fire. Good. Imagine not having Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback. That'd be horrible.
See, it's easy to say now, but I remember the years.
Oh my goodness.
I remember the years of Bortles and Gabbert and even Garrard, great guy.
Oh, well, yeah,
but,
yeah. Byron Leftwich, Trent Edwards. I mean, we could go deep into this.
Luke McCown,
Cody Kessler.
Yeah, I had blocked Cody Kessler out of my brain. I had blocked him out.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
there's probably a few that were missing. There's probably a few bad ones that were missing.
You're forgetting Todd Bowman, the legend Todd Bowman.
Gosh, God. This is that was my whole childhood. I mean, we did a nice little stretch with David Garrard, and then we're rolling out, like you said, Trent Edwards, and then Luke McCown. I mean, it was a brutal stretch there for a little bit.
Volkfang says, I just saw it on the Brett Coleman show that the Raiders ran a lot of halfback draw on first or second down because of the prevalence of the two high safety looks. Think they averaged 6 or 7 yards on it. I mean, that is something that sounds like Josh McDaniels would do, but the Raiders didn't have a lot of success outside of that if they did have success with that, unfortunately. DJM says, since we're talking defense right now, D-Hop and Cook on the market still. Any chance they are headed to a division rival? I guess we've kind of already talked about that already. Elliot Crabtree says training camp about to be lit. Yeah, it is. For those of you that are joining late, I have tickets to every single day. And if you haven't gotten tickets yet, just go on the Jaguars website. You just log into your Ticketmaster, and you just click what days you want to go, and they send you the tickets for those days. I think it's a limited seated capacity, so I would do it now. It takes like 2 seconds. Not like now because, you're watching our show, but like maybe like now, like later, like after the show and all of that. So do that. I'll be out there most of the days that I can.
And if one of the days are out, Jason would be happy to sell them to you for a hefty price.
I would be happy to. Maybe I'll do some giveaways if it sells out. That's not a bad idea.
That's nice of you.
Duval TV wants to remind us that we had Aaron Rodgers' brother for a minute, Jordan Rodgers, on the roster.
SEC network commentator now. Jordan Rodgers, Vanderbilt legend, Jordan Rodgers. Don't think I didn't watch him.
All right, so that's kind of all the current event stuff. If you missed us talking about Doug Peterson's son, the biggest signing of the year, if you missed us talking about Evan Ingram and his franchise tag and what we think will happen, go back and watch it on VOD when the show's over. It'll go straight up to YouTube as soon as it's over. Let's kind of move back a little bit. I know this is a broad, general question, but what is your impressions, thoughts on the Jaguars draft? And I know there's a billion people that the Jaguars drafted. So just overall impressions. If you want to talk about a certain player, you can, or whatever. Just your thoughts. Like, what did you walk away feeling? Because usually the way you walk away feeling and the way that you end up feeling are different. So, what were your just initial thoughts there?
Yeah. Started off really good. I know some people were actually a lot of people. I'm not entirely sure why we're upset with the Anton Harrison pick. I loved it. I mean, Cam's not going to be playing there for a little bit. You lose Jawan in the offseason. Obviously, you have Walker. I mean, the most important thing, I know people were saying, oh, we should have done this. We should have gone on interior defensive line. We should have gone tight end. We should have gone nickel at 27. I know there's a lot of people throwing around a lot of different positions they want to draft. The bottom line is if 16's not playing, you just throw this season in the trash. I mean, at that point, if 16's not, I don't care what happens if Trevor's not playing at that point. The season's over. Move on to the next year. Start to gear up. Do whatever you need to get it ready for the next season. Step one is make sure 16 stays upright. Step two is to make sure 16 has weapons. I mean, that's an organizational wide flaw. Someone should put that up on a wall in the new training facility. Like, make sure 16 stays upright. I love the pick. He was the top tackle on the board. There's a lot of people think we're going to go with Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse. I think Anton Harrison's probably the better pass protector, which is what I currently care about because Trevor Lawrence is our quarterback. I love the pick. From there, I was a little confused. Brent Strange, I'm fine with. I trust the coaching staff's eval. I trust Doug's eval. There's some people coming out saying that Doug was the one really pressing the general manager, the whole front office in this instance, to make the Brendan Strange pick, which I'm fine with. If Doug's pushing for Brendan Strange, I'm on the Brendan Strange train. That's when, no pun intended, that's when their draft got a little strange. Tank Bigsby in the third round. I like Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby was a top 6-7 running back for me. I really liked his play at Auburn. The Auburn team was not very good. I thought he got in trouble sometimes trying to do a little too much, just trying to dance a little too much, trying to get too many too many big plays. But I really like his running style. I like how physical he is. I like his ability out of the backfield. Also, his freshman year, he had a lot of carries. Jarquez Hunter came in and hit Jarquez and Tank really split the carries for the past 2 years for Auburn, especially this past season. So I think he only played 3 years in college. I think he has some tank or some juice left in his tank, if you will, which sometimes that doesn't have with all running backs. But just making a running back there in the third round, there's a lot more pressing needs. I mean, and another thing is the running back room is very crowded now. There's going to be a running back that gets cut that everyone's going to be surprised about. So you have Travis, you re-sign Jermichael Hasty in the offseason, you go out and sign Dearness Johnson from Cleveland, and then you draft Tank Bigsby. One of those, they're not keeping 4 running backs on the active roster. So it looks like Jermichael or Dearness Johnson are probably one of the odd men out. I mean, I don't know what your thought is on that, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, he could keep 4. I did one time I looked back and tried to kind of find any consistency or trend with Doug Peterson and like who he kept on his roster when he was with Philadelphia. And every year he kept like a different combination.
So they had LeGarrette Blount, Boston Scott. I mean, they had a lot of guys in the backfield. I mean, that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know if they keep 4. I mean, because especially, with Jamal Agnew on the roster, he's always going to take a receiver spot without actually being a down-to-down receiver. I mean, so that maybe they find somewhere else on the roster where they can take away a spot. But 4 running backs nowadays seems pretty steep in this league. Oh, well, your boy Snoop Connor.
I was just about to bring that up.
Okay, so you have 5. Okay, I knew I was forgetting something. You have Snoop Connor as well.
Yeah,
you have 5 running backs that probably should make the roster. They're not keeping 5. I'd bet a lot of money they're not keeping 5, to be honest with, or to be completely open and honest.
I feel like Ernest Johnson's the odd man out. Like, just, I mean, obviously you can play his way into
He
a
was
roster.
really good in Cleveland once Nick Chubb and Hunt went down. I mean, he had I think it was a nationally televised game, and he just played fantastic. I think if I had to guess, I'd say JaMychal and Snoop are probably the 2 out. I know JaMychal knows the offense better just because he played last year.
Hasty played well for us.
He's a good pass protector. I think De'Ernest Johnson's better than JaMychal Hasty. That's my take on that. So if I had to guess, it's Travis, De'Ernest, and Tank, because they're not cutting a 3rd round draft. I mean, you're not cutting a 3rd round draft pick under any circumstance. After Tank, you go Ventrell Miller. I mean, that's a special teams pick, which I think is a bit steep in the 4th. I don't know if you had any other thoughts on this, but that's a special teams pick in the 4th round.
I have a lot of thoughts on Ventrell Miller, but I'm about to release my Ventrell Miller film breakdown in a couple days.
You can't say anything.
So I'm just going to hold off till then. Because I could talk. It's fresh on my mind. I could talk for an hour about it. So I'm just going to save that for the film breakdown. I think that there is potential for him to help in the run game against the run. So and I'll just say this: Ventrell Miller of 2020 and Ventrell Miller of last year are not the same guy.
Yeah, I'm so glad how much I was about to say. How much in your breakdown did you go back to? Like, I know you got hurt in 2021. How much did you go back to 2020? So he played different. He played a different position. I'm sure you went back for.
Yeah,
and he's playing pure edge. It was so funny because Brennan Cox at Florida was always this kind of like rotating off ball linebacker, and then like kind of off ball and then on ball sometime, and then Ventrell Miller was just their edge rusher. And then this year, Florida comes out against Utah. Brennan Cox is coming off the edge of like playing like a 5 tech, and Ventrell Miller's at middle linebacker. Yeah. I mean, that was a little bit of a head scratcher coming out.
He did. I wouldn't say he played strictly edge in 2020.
But he was definitely purely off ball last year.
Yeah, and the defense was different. Different.
Yes, it was a different. Todd Grantham was the coordinator.
Right. And he kind of played more of an off ball linebacker role because they had a guy there. I forgot who they liked at Mike. But, he led the team in tackles in 2020. So, he flew around the field in 2020. Just a completely different athlete. He tore his bicep in 2021 and then fractured his foot in the second game of the season in 2022.
I think he had knee issues at one point also.
So, and not to mention he stole someone's credit card in 2018. But never mind. We're going to move past all of that.
Florida players.
What about Tyler Lacey, Yasir Abdullah, Antonio Johnson? You see anything out of
Yasir Abdullah really intrigues me. I mean, just a guy that's just going to fly off the edge. Ran fast at the combine. Louisville, fun fact, led the country in sacks last year, I believe. And generated a lot of pressures. It's funny because them and Cincinnati played each other in Fenway Bowl. It was number 1 and number 2 in the country in sacks. A lot of it was because they blitzed a lot. A lot of exotic blitzes, a lot of blitzes from linebackers. Louisville had a cornerback that had multiple sacks on it, like multiple cornerbacks with multiple sacks. It was a really fun defense. I'm sure I don't know if you're going to do Yasir Abdullah breakdown, but just going back and watching Louisville's blitz packages is a lot. They're very, very exotic. So that was a lot of fun. Louisville got after the pass rusher, and they did it with Yaya Diaby. And then Yasir Abdullah coming off the edge. 2 guys that were drafted pretty high. I mean, Yasir Abdullah was a 5th round pick. Diaby was picked in the 2nd or 3rd, I believe. I can't remember which. I think maybe Tampa picked him up. But 2 guys that just absolutely fly. They fly in the 40. They fly down the field. I think that's a guy that kind of intrigues me a bit. Tyler Lacey seems like a good player. He's a bit heavy for an edge. He's short arms, kind of thick, stout guy. So I think he's a different kind. I think they drafted 2 very different kinds of different edges, I guess you could call it. Antonio Johnson probably back in March was a late 1st rounder to early 2nd rounder. I like the pick. I don't think he's going to be what a lot of people think moving forward. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Trey Herndon's out of the slot." Antonio Johnson isn't playing nickel in the NFL.
Right.
I think eventually you move him into that Rashawn Jenkins role.
Right.
I mean, they restructure Rashawn's contract, so he's here for at least this season. I think you kind of groom him for that strong safety, that box safety role. I think that's where he's going to excel at this level. Probably my favorite pick in the late rounds was Parker Washington. I love Parker Washington. Go watch the Ohio State game. I think that tells you kind of everything you need to know. He had a fantastic catch against Minnesota and their wideout this past year in 2022. I loved him. That was a very good Penn State receiving core as well. Also had Mitchell Tinsley, Parker Washington, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Really, really good. Really think about Penn State had a lot of good weapons on the team this year. Parker Washington was the alpha in that room. I love the pick, especially for the 6th round value.
Why do you think he went so late?
people are looking for juice nowadays. I mean, you see guys like Jalen Hyatt that just are going to go out there and fly. Guys like Tyler Scott from Cincinnati, they're going to go out there and fly. I mean, he's not going to impress you in shirts and shorts. I mean, he's going to be a guy. He's going to be physical. There's a play against Ohio State. He catches a slant, breaks 2 tackles, and takes it to the house. That's where he's going to excel. And sometimes that gets lost during draft season. Also, he's not the biggest guy. I mean, people want guys with big frames and they're going to run fast. If you're small and you don't run particularly fast, or you're not flyer, as some people call them, you're going to drop in the draft no matter how good your tape is.
Yeah, his tape was good. I mean, I haven't gotten full into it, but watching Auburn play in the Tank Bigsby film, I got to see a lot of Parker Washington already.
You doubled up there.
Or Brenton Strange. Auburn. Okay, Auburn and Brenton Strange. So I got to watch all Brenton Strange.
You got Tank Bigsby, Parker Washington, and Brenton Strange in one game. Yeah, see, that's what you got to do. People don't understand. That's what you have to do. You'd be like, okay, where can I watch both of these guys at the same time?
Right, and they played 2 years in a row. So we got to see.
Yeah,
I got to see
played
2021
game was much better than last. Last year's game was not fun to watch.
Yeah, yep. And yeah, I mean, just those. I mean, that Auburn offense. Speaking of, back to Antonio Johnson.
It was TJ Finley. I mean, I know. Sorry to interrupt, but later in the year, it got a little bit more fun because TJ Finley would just like throw the ball, and you had no clue where it was going. Robbie Ashford got in the backfield, and he would just run around. I mean, like Robbie Ashford looked like that middle
was the
school
Oregon
quarterback,
kid, right? The Oregon.
Yes,
transfer?
The Oregon kid that transferred in. Robbie Ashford got in the backfield. He ran around like a chicken with his head cut off because that offensive line was horrible. Like watch the Alabama game. Robbie Ashford is running for his life, but it made he would pull it off sometimes. Auburn also had probably, once again, we're going way off topic, but Auburn probably had the worst football play I've ever seen. They tried to run a trick play against LSU last year. The receiver ended up like kind of throwing over his head.
I saw that
4 yards, and Harold Perkins, who's an absolute, he'll be a top 5 pick in the 2025 draft for all of you people that just want to keep that in the back of your mind. Harold Perkins picks the ball off, and maybe one of the worst football plays I've ever seen in my life.
I remember seeing
it was a lot of fun.
I remember seeing that on film, and it was just one thing about that reminded me of Ventrell Miller is one thing that stood out to me watching his film and going through all of his games is every freaking game that the Gators played was against a scrambling quarterback. I mean, it was just like, it was like I tweeted a list of the quarterbacks that Ventrell Miller lined up against, and the list is insane. It's just guys that just run. So
Jordan Travis, Cam Rising's gonna run. I think that Mike Wright played the Vanderbilt game. Mike Wright's gonna run around quite a bit. Jaden Daniels from LSU is going to run around quite a bit.
I didn't even name those guys. I didn't even name those guys, and because
Jaden Daniels, I think the Auburn game. I don't know if you watched that Auburn LSU game. I think he ran. Ran the ball more than he ended up throwing it. I mean, he just scrambled every play.
Cam Rising, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker.
Yes.
Stetson Bennett runs more than people think.
Yes.
Spencer Rattler, Jordan Travis.
He'll run around.
Felipe Franks, Kellen Mond. Matt Corral.
Oh, you're going back here. Okay, I was like, Felipe Frank. Arkansas 2020.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
I was like,
those aren't even naming the guys that you named that aren't notable that run. So every single game.
Jalen Daniels for LSU probably ran just about as much as any quarterback this past year. I'm looking up the schedule. You got me looking up the schedule now.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. I was like, I just want to see this guy play against a traditional offense. I just want to see how he does against a normal offense.
Connor Wegman was supposed to start for A&M this year when Florida played them. Haynes King ended up starting instead. He's fast, but I mean, he's just not very athletic. Those people are kind of fast, but they just don't know what to do sometimes.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys. So he runs as well. Jaden Daniels from LSU. Brady Cook doesn't run. Yeah, I mean, they played. I mean, just about every quarterback they played this past year is going to scramble a decent bit. Besides Missouri, Brady Cook's not going to run at all. But
yeah, and that was an interesting game. That was weird.
Odd.
Game.
There's a lot of weird. Florida had such a weird season.
It was not fun to watch. It was not fun really to watch any games this year. The Utah game. The Utah game was fun. Week 1.
And Utah should have won that. I had Utah -2.5. Utah should have won that game.
They threw an interception I forgot
on the goal line. I forgot for whatever reason the game. They were only down by 3. I thought they were down by 4 for some reason.
Yeah.
I miss college football at certain points throughout the offseason. I just go back and watch clips. That play was on one of the clips. It's like, they were down by 3. Also, you don't throw the pick there, Cam Rising. You kick it and send it to overtime, and then you cover. I make money.
That's what I just was like. All right, you know what, Cam Rising.
The Kentucky game was so weird.
Oh,
the Kentucky game might have been weirder than the Missouri game. Kentucky. I mean. Anthony Richardson was just spraying. He went 38% of his passes. He was spraying the ball that game.
It was not fun. That's for sure. All right. So one thing that a lot of people have been talking about, and maybe we'll get a couple comments here before we transition to this. Duval TV says, I don't know if it's possible, but would it be amazing? It would be amazing if Clavon Chazon could make a huge splash this season. quickly. Any chance Clay?
I'm rooting for the guy.
Who?
I hope he does. I mean,
Me too.
people are really mean to him.
They are, and I mean, the dude's like super athletic. And he came out young, and
he's a safety. I mean, like he's a safety that is playing edge rusher right now. I mean, he's like 220 pounds. I mean, he got put in a bad position.
Is he still like 24? I mean, he's still like.
Oh, he's probably like 23. I mean, these guys
now. He's the same age as Ventrell Miller. Just put that in some context for you guys. Same age as a guy we just drafted in the 4th round. So
Hendon Hooker's gonna play his first snap when he's 26.
Stetson Bennett. Stetson
Bennett's gonna be 20. Stetson Bennett. I mean, he's been drinking for a decade now.
He also says the number 1 seed Jags road to the Super Bowl comes through Duval, and his bold prediction is that Anton Harrison will be in the Hall of Fame.
I hope that'd be fantastic. We just had the 2 bookends. I could
definitely see Anton Harrison taking Cam Robinson's job. And I saw this on Jags Reddit, and I kind of made me stop and made me think for a second. So the first 4 weeks of the season, who's playing left, who's playing right? Like, do we know for sure?
I think Walker's playing left.
I think Walker's playing left and Anton's playing right.
Anton's playing right. I think those guys, bearing injury, I think those guys play every game this year at those positions.
What about when Cam Robinson gets back? So Walker Little goes to the bench?
Nope.
Think Walker Little goes back to right?
No, I think he stays at left.
And Cam Robinson goes to right?
I think no, you can leave Anton there. I think you kick Cam inside. If not, he's out of the rotation.
So you're saying Cam comes back week 5, either guard or nothing?
Guard or nothing. Yep. It depending on how they play. I think they're going to play good, and I think that at that point you don't mess it up. Cam is very cuttable after this year, contract wise. He got the big contract. Balky did a good job of front loading a lot of these contracts when we had a lot of money. Cam's was very front loaded. He's a very cuttable player after this year. I think you kick him in, try him at left guard because obviously you have Sheriff at right guard. You have Fortner at center. Left guard's still a bit of a question mark. You don't know how Barch can be when he comes back. I think you try Cam at left guard, see how that goes. But I think depending on, obviously it's all dependent on how they play, but I think you keep those guys to start the season there.
What's your comfortability? How do you feel about Anton Harrison and Walker Little being your bookends?
I thought Walker played good last year. I mean, Walker played a decent bit of snaps last year. Obviously Cam went down. Walker had to step in. Obviously, you're always going to be scared of starting a rookie, especially a rookie that hasn't played a lot of right tackle. I think he's played 1 college game at right tackle, if I remember correctly. I remember correctly. He figured out an hour before kickoff also. I trust this coaching. I mean, this coaching staff hasn't given me a reason not to trust them to this point. I think especially at Oklahoma under the Lincoln Riley offense, last year offense was a little different with Jeff Levy, but still similar kind of nature, similar playing speed. He's played a lot. He's very young, but he's played a lot of college football. He started since a freshman. He's a blue chip guy coming out of high school, and he's also played a lot of snaps. I mean, sometimes people say like, oh, this guy's played 5 years of college football, or he's in college for 5 years. Anton Harrison played 3 years, and he played almost every single snap of his college career. He's seen a lot of different things for being as young as he is. Yeah,
and I like Anton Harrison, and I think he was the right pick. And my cat behind me is going crazy. I think he was the right pick there.
Yeah.
So I'm more worried about Walker Little. I mean, again, you got the rookie stuff there. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I like Walker Little. I hope he does well. I don't know. Like you said, I mean, at the very beginning of the show, like keep 16 upright. You know, I'd love to have guys that I'm just like, okay, we're good. Like we're good there. So
yeah, you're not worried about it. That's the goal. Is just not be worried about the offensive line no matter what. And I think this year we do have a little bit more to play with. Obviously, you lose Jawan, but the guard, you have a few more options to guard. You still have Shatley, you still have Barch, Cam if he comes back. I mean, or maybe you kick Walker inside. I mean, I feel like we have probably 8 pretty solid offensive linemen, which is a good number to have.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good position to have some bodies for sure.
Yeah, no one's ever going to be hearing anything from me being like, oh, we spent too much on the offensive line, or we have too many roster spots for offensive line. I mean, that's the position that you want to make sure you're okay at.
Especially when you have a top 5 quarterback in the league, which I'm gonna pose this question to you, and it's gonna make you. I'm not gonna say this, but I'm gonna pose a question to you. And it's gonna make you answer and say, Trevor is the second best quarterback in the league. We're gonna get there though. Okay. So, a lot of people are like mad because these lists have like Trevor like 6th, 7th, some like 8th or 9th. Does it? I mean, you can answer where you think Trevor is. Does it bother you, like, what the national media thinks about where Trevor's at on the tier list or where he's at in the rankings? Like, does it bother you when these experts come out and they put out lists and Trevor is not as high as he should be?
Not really, because no one watches the Jaguars from the national media. I mean, like how, like besides the playoff game, and maybe the Tennessee game, probably the Dallas game. How many games of Trevor's the national media watched last year?
Yeah, probably zero.
Like, yeah, probably zero. I mean, so no, I mean, like it's trust me. I mean, you watch a lot of film. It's tough to really give an accurate opinion on a lot of things. I think some people probably need to be more quiet on things they don't know about, but they're paid to speak. I mean, so that's just It's in their nature. They're paid to say something, so they have to get something out of their mouths. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, like, to be honest with you, I'm not going to go out there and speak about Geno Smith's performance last year because I watched like 4 or 5 Seahawks games. And that's not a large enough sample size for me to just be like, Geno Smith is this or Geno Smith is that. So, I mean, like, and honestly, I don't even love the whole process of grading quarterbacks on tier lists or ranking them 1 through 32. The way I want to look at it is with you take your team. What everyone here is a Jags fan. So you take your team. You ask yourself, how many other quarterbacks would you rather have? Everything included, age, injury history, future, all that. How many other quarterbacks would you rather have on your roster than Trevor Lawrence? Or would you trade anyone willingly for Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah,
I have one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a homer. So he's gonna be high up on my list, but it would be obviously Patty Mahomes. I think everyone would take him over.
Yeah. That's the. I don't think this is too homerish. Given Trevor's age, Trevor's 23, given his head coach, given the situation, everything that he's been through already, given his past in college, his high school, his reputation, there's only one guy in the entire league that I am going to willingly trade Trevor for. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I think it would be hard for me to pass up on Josh Allen.
Really?
And I love Trevor. And again, I would probably, I mean, if I'm having to pick one of those two guys, I'm in a great situation. Like, my team's good. Like, we're fine with either one. But I think if someone was like, hey, you can't have Trevor, you're going to have Josh Allen, I think I'd be like, okay, I mean, that's fine. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with it. But I don't know if I'd willingly give Trevor. I mean, if you give me the option, like, you have any quarterback in the league. I mean, yeah, if you have any quarterback in the league, current age included. I mean, so like people say like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is really good. Aaron Rodgers is 38, 39.
Right.
Like, you can say the same thing about Brady.
Right.
All factors included. I'm not giving anyone up for Trevor besides Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the only person. I mean, even that, Patrick Mahomes is 28.
Right.
Trevor's 23. Trevor's going to be going into his 3rd NFL season at 23 years old.
Yeah.
Trevor is that's another thing. Trevor's very young. Burrow didn't start playing in the NFL until I think he's like 23, 24. Trevor's going to his 3rd season coming off of a Pro Bowl appearance at the age of 23.
Not to mention Burrow, the receivers he's had on his team.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Herbert, another guy that people would probably put on that list, like, it's comparable. You look at the receivers that he's had. Josh Allen's had great receivers. I mean, this was the first year we got to see Trevor with good receivers, you know, and
first year with the actual coach. NFL head coach as well. Yeah.
Yep. So all of that, I mean, I'm with you, and I've been saying that, you know, as long as you have, you know, so it's like, I agree. I mean, Trevor's, in my opinion, like, looking forward to the future, you know, I think, you know, he's on there, and he's, you know, and even like you said, even Patrick Mahomes, like, we'll see. I mean, I know he's
28. He's getting beat. Like, Trevor's been I need to say prayer. Trevor's been very healthy throughout his career as well. Burrow towards ACL, and obviously the Bengals offensive line wasn't good that year. Burrow towards ACL. Herbert's had some shoulder issues. Like, Trevor's been pretty much healthy his entire career as well. I know it's been a very short career. He's only played 2 full seasons. He got pretty beat up in 2021, and he didn't suffer any major injuries from that. I mean, like, yeah, probably Patrick Mahomes, just given everything. But moving forward, I mean, I don't think I'd be in the wrong saying Patrick Mahomes and then Trevor is the guys I would have if I had to trade anyone for Trevor.
Yeah. I'm with you there. 100%.
Yeah. Hey, I was at the Bears game in 2020 with 16 taped on my back. I've been on this train way too long to get off of it this early.
I remember when Trevor was in college and thinking I thought the Jags were good because it was 2017, and I was like, oh, we're good. Like, we're going to be good for a while. We have a stud defense. There's no chance we're going to even be in the running. I remember having the thought when I was watching Trevor Lawrence in college, thinking, like, it would almost be worth it to tank to get this guy. And, you know, it was kind of like backhanded comment. I think I even said it out loud, a little backhanded comment because nobody wants to suck. But, like, like I said, in 2017, coming off the loss in the playoffs, we all thought we were going to have sustained success for a while. And so for it to happen, I was like, oh, wow. And like, we were rooting for the Jets so hard that year for them to win.
Oh my God. I remember, I had so many stories. So I remember we played Indy the first week. I'm watching with my sister, who's, I'm gonna say this nicely, fair weather Jags fan. I mean, like when they're good, she loves reposting Duval till we die on her story, but she hasn't watched a many Jags game. Watching it with my fair weather Jags fan sister, and I'm cheering so hard for the Colts. This is the first game of 2021. We win. I am so upset at this point. I mean, like I knew the season was gonna be over. I mean, obviously I love college football. I watched Trevor back in high school. His first game of his senior year was on ESPN. They played Bartram Trail, which if you're local in Jacksonville and watching, you know where it is. Game went like 3 overtimes. Joey Gatewood was at Bartram. It was just both 2 5-star quarterbacks duking it out. I was on the Trevor train, like you said. I was on the Trevor train back when he was a senior in high school in 2017.
Yeah,
I remember watching him. I remember watching the Fiesta Bowl in 2019 when he had that big run against Ohio State, and then the Sugar Bowl the next year. I was scared to death because he kept getting beat up against Ohio State because Clemson, and we already locked up the first pick at this point as well, or we were really close to. It's one of the two. I was scared to death watching Trevor in his final college game that he was going to get hurt.
Was it Sean Wade hit? Was it Sean Wade that hit him?
No, that was the year before. No, that was the year before. This was where they got blown out in the Sugar Bowl. Ohio State only played like 6 games in the season. It was the COVID year.
Oh yeah.
And then Trevor won every game he started. They lost the Notre Dame game because he had COVID. But then he plays in the Sugar Bowl, and Clemson gets killed by Ohio State. But he played pretty good also. He's getting killed. This Clemson offensive line is horrible. I'm scared to death. It's like midnight on a New Year's Eve. I'm like, please pull Trevor. I mean, this is the last thing we need as a Jags fan. Yeah. I mean, so I've been invested in this kid for like 6 years. It feels like now.
I love it. I'm glad. I mean, I'm so excited. I mean, I remember just like hyping him up to fair weather fans, and I was like, they were like, oh, is this guy pretty good? I'm like, he is going to be the best player the Jaguars have ever had. And they're like, really?
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely. And this, and they're like, okay, and I was just like, just watch, And so, I mean, we saw the step and the leap he took last year, and I think we all expect him to take that leap again. We'll get to a couple more comments before we wrap up here. And again, if you have not yet followed Bubba, Duval TV said, I followed Bubba on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow him on YouTube, right? You're on YouTube, CFB Cauldron?
CFB Cauldron.
Go subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. So appreciate that. As you guys can tell, he knows what he's talking about. He wouldn't be on this show if he didn't. That's for sure. Elliot Crabtree says it was definitely worth tanking for Trevor Lawrence. I celebrated a lot when we clinched the #1 overall pick that season. Duval TV says Jalen Ramsey lost to the Jets and Frank Gore. Yeah.
Shout out Jalen and Frank Gore. Frank Gore needs to go in the pride of the Jaguars, for being completely honest.
Oh yeah.
If this whole thing, 15, 20 years down the road, if this thing turns out like potentially could with Doug Peterson and Trevor, like why are we not putting Frank? I'm being 100% honest. Put Frank Gore in the pride of the Jaguars. also might have to put the coronavirus in there because the week after the Jets played the Browns, and the Browns had no receivers. I think like the COVID year was so weird because there was weird little things like that. The Browns had 1 active receiver on the entire. They were in like 31 personnel the entire game. So that same day that the Bears were playing, or not the Bears, that the Browns were playing the Jets, and we already had the tiebreaker head-to-head against the Jets. But if we lost against the Bears and they beat the Browns, it was locked up that day. So I go to the Jags game. I'm decked out. I have my Jags hoodie on, and then like duct tape on the back. I have 16. We're sitting by all these Bears fans. We're cheering our hearts out, and like we're on our phones looking at the Browns game as the Browns are running the ball every play. There's so many great stories from that COVID year.
Watching the Ventrell Miller tape, I forgot there's like nobody in the stands from 2020.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this was so weird. Sideline reporters with masks on. I was like, this is weird.
There's no one within 50 yards.
The Texas A&M game, Texas A&M Florida game, they were like showing before the game a clip of like where the Texas A&M kids usually tailgate, and it was like tailgating strictly prohibited. It was like, it was crazy. It was crazy. Well, Bubba, I appreciate you being on here. We hit an hour, so that's a good show. That's a good show in my book there for sure. Again, go follow Bubba. Make sure to follow everything he has: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. He puts out good stuff. I love his shows. I watch all of his shows. He catches me up on college football because you guys know me. I'm an NFL guy more than a college guy, but I like it. Bubba can cover it all. One of the most knowledgeable football fans I know. So make sure to follow him on all of those things. Hit a thumbs up on the video while you're here, because I guess that helps the algorithm, and then it helps more people see it, which in turn helps the channel and things like that. So, Bubba, any parting words you have for the Jags fans before we let you go?
Yeah. So if anyone wants to go into my Twitter account, feel free to tweet at me. I'm pretty open to kind of covering anything. I put this out there before. Not many people. Oh, I think one of your subscribers took me up on it and asked me to talk about Mo Ibrahim, the former Minnesota running back. But feel free. I love covering anything. If I don't mind if it's Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, Charlotte, UNC Charlotte, whatever it is, I'll be fine covering it. I would love to detail whatever you want me to. So go tweet at me, tag me, go probably on Twitter. I'm not great at Instagram. We're still getting there. Go ahead, tag me, ask me any of your questions. I love to answer them. I'll even write a story about it if you want me to.
Was that a backhanded comment about the 226th pick in the draft by the Jaguars, Cooper Hodges out of Appalachian State? Was that a backhanded comment there? Is that what I just heard?
No, it was not. No,
okay.
it was not.
Okay, you're making sure. All right, well, I appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you guys for watching the show. We'll see you very soon. Be looking out for the next film breakdown. It's going to be on Ventrell Miller, so it's going to be good to go. Until we see you next time.